let's go back to the question about the syllabi. So at the very bottom of every single one of my syllabi, it says, I have read and understand the policies and expectations of me in this course, including that of the Agriculture Department. I also understand my responsibility to my own learning and to that of others around me. I will work hard to maintain my integrity as a part of this class, department, and school. I also understand any unsafe actions that I purposely caused in the shop may result in removal from the course. That is in the bottom of every single one of my syllabi.
It's signed by the student and the parent.
Okay.
So if we're going to have that in there, it needs to be.
I would go even further. I would require the meeting if there's a safety issue before they return. And if the parent won't do it, then the kid doesn't get to take that class the next semester.
What happens if we have a meeting and the kid's still obnoxious, danger to everybody?
Well, then they would, I mean, eventually, like, if you would just suspension up for expulsion. But keep making those parents come in and put the kid on a behavior plan. And maybe that behavior plan isn't in the shop. Maybe it's something different. But I would even take it further. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we
ready?
we suggest changing number 3 to crossing out access for abuse only due to discipline issues. Cross out following in-person conference between teacher, principal, students, parent, guardian, and crossing out failure to meet. Continued problems result in student being placed in alternative online classes, etc. And at the end of the day, we would like to be able to say, in instances where specific students are removed from the laboratory, shop, or gym, the student will only be allowed to return to the laboratory, shop, gym, weight room after following the procedure written on course syllabus.
That would take the onus off of the administration and put it on the teacher, but it would still be in the master agreement.
So if they're removed for a safety issue, then they have to follow whatever process is in the syllabus.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So like for me, for some of the minor safety issues, it's an essay explaining why the issue that they did was a danger to themselves or others. A step after that, it's going to be, time off from the shop, and maybe there will be removal. The gym's probably going to be different. The laboratory is going to be different. It's going to depend on what the issue was.
Your biggest two classes would be gym/weight room and then the shop. Those would be the big problems. The way I'm set up, I have the laboratory in a separate room. I can 100% control access to that, etc. It's a little harder to do in the shop and gym. And then we have to submit the syllabi at the beginning of the year anyway, so we can go over that with the administration.
Where are we with what we suggested?
You get it to us in writing so it's easier to adjust it
Okay.
in writing. We're willing to, we don't like it, but we want to change it and talk about it.
We don't like a lot of this other stuff.
So we're going to talk about it.
Where are we on number 2? Did we remove that?
District number 2, district where we think we are. The district will communicate in writing to the staff concerning the resolution of discipline referrals submitted by the staff.
Period.
And it's not period. Period.
How do we account for a situation like an IEP and removing them from their educational environment?
It doesn't. IEPs don't cover. If it's a danger, that steps outside of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
So
It would be a dangerous IEP if it says that the student can never be removed from class. That is a
the
liability.
exceptions to IEPs are drugs and violence.
You still have to provide services though.
Doesn't mean we have to provide that service because
Yeah.
shop isn't required. It's an elective. PE has the IDLA.
But that's their schedule. Like, it does create a little bit of an issue.
Gonna have to do something because somebody's gonna get hurt.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, I mean, it's, the problem is if I remove a student from the shop,
It doesn't say shop on that.
well, I'm using an example for myself because I don't go and watch PE. I have no idea what she does in her classroom because I'm teaching while she's teaching. But for example, if I were to remove my student from my course, or the shop portion of my course, all they're going to have is safety and any of the bookwork. But the majority of what they do is actually shop work. Likewise, PE, I'm pretty doggone sure that the majority of what they do is physical exercise. If you have a student in there not doing the coursework, why would we continue to put them in the coursework?
Well, that could be said about a lot of situations, but what about if we had something like if special ed law and this policy conflict?
Special ed law.
Let me put it this way.
Or would you be willing to?
Well,
do
you
that?
don't even have to put that.
Let me address it this way.
Why wouldn't you though?
So when I was in Sonoma, my first teaching year, I taught every single sophomore in the entire school, with the exception of one, and they were wheelchair bound and non-communicative. I taught an entire special ed class how to weld. There were rules, and they were able to follow them, and they were respectful of that. And I taught very low-functioning students how to gas weld. The only one that got injured in that class was actually me while I was working with them. But I still taught them. But the problem is with special ed, that requires a one-on-one. I was working one-on-one with those students. If you're going to expect me to put a special ed student in a hazardous situation where they need one-on-one attention, I need an assistant to teach them one-on-one. You know, what we're talking about is students that are beyond that, not the what-ifs, it's the actuals that we can't trust for disciplinary or safety issues. You know, we're not asking to remove special ed students. I work with special ed students in welding, I understand that, we work through that. It's the ones that I can't trust and I can't leave by themselves and I can't have out of my eyesight that are the issue. So that's why we need that in there. I mean, it is a liability to Mike. If a student chops off their hand because I was helping another student and I knew they were an issue and I wasn't watching them, I'm liable.
All this stuff doesn't have to be in the master agreement for you to follow. It can be in your
I
state policy,
need-
student
I need-
handbook. It doesn't have to be in the master agreement.
But we brought this up before during the year and nothing happened. That's why it's in the, we want it in the master agreement.
I want it in there to say that the syllabus is law, basically, because I need it to be there. I need it to not be stepped around. I need to be able to freely teach. I can teach more when I don't have to worry about following students around. Okay, we've completely taken
No
it.
one's disagreeing.
Right, but we're completely taking it off of your part and we're saying just,
If there's
Put
a
it in there.
situation where you're removing a kid, there are some limits there with special ed kids,
Yeah.
moving them from their assigned class.
this
I'm
isn't
just
about
saying-
special ed.
Well, I'm just saying there are exceptions where a kid may not be, it's just like on the bus. Like if a kid gets in trouble on the bus, there's only a limited number of times where they may be, say, suspended from the school bus if they're on an IEP.
Yeah.
It's no different anywhere in any other environment. I'm just saying there may be exceptions. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying like there are situations where, you know, you say, okay, if they don't do this, they can't come back to my class, and I'll support it. But I'm saying, what if we run into a special ed issue where we can't exclude that kid from that environment past a certain number of days? You see what I'm saying? I get you're gonna have special ed kids. I just don't have an answer for that. I don't know how, I mean, I guess I think in the end, like, special ed law would just have to trump that.
Yeah, with individual education plan.
That's why
I've got a kid.
that's why I think, why not put it in there? If you're agreeing with me.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater there.
If we have a special ed kid that's, say, gets kicked out of the shop for safety issues, and we run into a situation where they're not able to go back to the shop, and we're facing something with the State Department because we're excluding that kid from that class, what do we do?
Put them back in with a modified program, which they're gonna have to have an assistant with them.
A behavior plan.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to have an assistant with them, because I can't take care of one student and neglect 15 or 20.
Yeah, I get it. I mean,
I
that's the
can't-
story of teaching, I get it.
Right, and I can't, this is the exact same reason that I'm asking for this.
Mhm.
You know, half the reason the greenhouse is halfway assembled is I have been tracking down students that have issues. You know, I can't trust every single student, and I do the best I can. If you're gonna abide by the syllabus and the rules that we set forth in the syllabus, I don't see why you can't have it in the agreement. If you're agreeing with this, why can't it be in there?
What do you think?
I mean, you've acknowledged that
Mhm.
it's a good idea. You've acknowledged that. you
Well, I've
abide by
acknowledged
that.
a lot of these things,
Right.
not all of them, not all of them.
Right.
But a lot of them I agree with you completely.
So, but
You're
some
just
of
not
these,
saying it has to be in the master agreement.
right, but some of these things that you're saying, we're saying things like, timeframes. Oh, well, that'll be okay. That'll be okay in a job description. That'll be okay in a, responsibilities, but this is like a safety and legal issue. You know, I don't want to have to answer to this later on.
You want to just take it?
Yeah.
Take it.
So, are we good with 3 saying instances where specific students are removed from laboratory shop, or gym? Student won't be allowed to return to the laboratory shop, gym, weight room after following procedure written on course syllabus.
Did you say removed for safety concerns?
just says removed. We can insert safety
Yeah,
back
makes
in there.
sense, yeah.
Amy, can you read that?
Yeah, I need to see that, so it says, in instances where specific students are removed from laboratory, shop, gym, access, to return to the,
Okay, so,
return, okay.
so.
Can you speak a little louder here?
Yeah. In instances where specific students are removed from the laboratory, can't say the word, shop or gym for safety
For
issues,
safety issues.
the student will only be allowed to return to the laboratory, shop, gym, weight room after following procedure written on the course syllabus.
Yes, I have that.
I think that at the end, I think that it's important to put responsibility on the parents for that. I think at the end to say, to include a parent-teacher meeting.
Then that can be put in on the teacher's syllabus.
But what if they don't? That's what I think that part's really important.
Okay, so written on the course syllabus, which will
Approved syllabus.
on the approved
Approved
course
course.
syllabus. That
And
way,
we'll just make sure that we'll
You
just have to make
approve
sure
it.
it's on there.
you make sure, well, you have to give them to you as a matter of course, you can make sure it's on.
Are
That
we
way-
having the parents sign off on the syllabus and the students sign off on the syllabus?
Why
Everything?
not? That way, cover our butts. Yeah. Okay, the next one, this is what the
Really quick, did we talk to number 2? We just put period on, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
So the district proposes teachers will respond to all parent communication within 24 business hours.
What I mean there is 24 hours,
24 hours.
like just a day, 24 hours.
Business day, if it was over the weekend, yeah, they can,
During school hours, during school days.
they do it Friday, I have money for stores.
Contact will be in the form of communication the parent requested and established. Actually, so a couple of things there. We're not happy with the time frame, and
What would you suggest on that, other than 24 hours?
Leave it open-ended, just like we've discussed on other things. So
That doesn't change anything.
Huh?
That doesn't change anything. It just keeps it the way it is now, where teachers don't respond, or have the option of not responding.
But you, earlier on other parts, said that you didn't want to confine people to certain timeframes because then you're dictating their duties and
Again,
responsibilities.
I'm just saying, there's
It's-
a lot
I mean,
of,
it's give and take on the same
there's a
thing.
lot of anger on the part of the community with a couple teachers that just don't respond to communication. And I'm just trying to, I've tried to help those teachers and tell them, hey, respond. That's all you have to do, just respond. And when it doesn't happen, it benefits the teacher as much as anyone else.
okay, so we proposed is teachers will respond to all parent communication within 2 school days of being contacted. Contact will be in the form of Contact will be in the form of communication with a preference toward email. This email, there's a written record of it now,
Yeah.
and now we have our butts covered.
And I think that's where 95% of them are coming.
I prefer email,
2 school days,
2 school days with a preference to email.
prefer email.
Okay, we good? Can we move on?
Yep.
4.6, education aids and subs. First one is Kendrick will provide a full-time general education aid to address academic needs at Kendrick Junior Senior High School. So this is one of the big things that I got to talk about when I was going around talking to teachers, was that they need an aid to quote around, not just for special ed, but for general classes. And I mean, this would help us with our ranking in the state, which is down 242 points since 2018.
I would say that we're over allotted classified staffing allotment, and I don't think the master agreement should mandate staffing. We have no problem looking at the board as a whole, but again, it should not be necessary.
So we were willing to have that, but we need to have a discussion. It's really, really needed. Math, we needed. English was our scores bad in math and English. It'd be helpful to have.
My math score came up this year. Yeah.
Good job. English needs help in the shop, and so that would be a very appreciated outcome. So we're okay not having it in there.
Yeah, we can discuss it as a board.
I'm very aware of that, and
Well, I mean, it'd be a board administration decision.
I'm also aware of the shallow hiring pool.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to look at.
Yeah,
No
so-
guarantees.
That's fine. We need to have a discussion. Next one, administration will physically check into classrooms being supervised by temporary subs at least once per period to ensure the subs are able to follow teacher plans as well as maintain order. So we have a hard time keeping subs. And a lot of our subs are not treated well by students. Justin, your wife, I've been informed, people were throwing stuff at her. And we've also had 2 other subs where the students are hitting on the teacher, on the sub, or they're talking about what they would like to do to the sub in the presence of the sub. And having a sub administration come in and periodically check to see if things were working would definitely tamp down on that sort of behavior, and it would also help us keep subs.
That's fine, but you got this here listed at least once per period, which isn't always possible. I mean, it just,
Once per period.
that's what you have listed right here.
You guys have alternatives? Because I mean, once per period, we want to, if the kids know that a teacher is going to come in, administrator is going to come in and check on the class,
Yeah, and it might have effect when he walks in, as soon as he walks out, you make.
then they can tell the sub, because the other problem is.
I'm sorry. So here's what I wrote about this one. I said, I don't think it's always possible and doesn't actually address issues if subs are ineffective, like they have a hard time managing the class, me walking in for, whatever amount of time if I can. Generally, we do check in on subs multiple times a day. We check in the morning, lunch, at the end of the day, and talk about how things are going. Like, as much as what we want, like, we can't, make things always go perfectly with the sub. Like, one of the things that I suggested too with this to help that process, because you want to have that go better. And I put it on that form, if you want to read that, with subs, that I thought would be helpful.
Here, I'll read it.
Teachers will submit substitute.
Teachers will submit sub-lesson plans to the building principal in writing for approval 24 hours in advance of the absence. The goal of this is to set our substitutes up for success by having adequate lesson plans that will make management of the class easier. Lesson plans should have enough content to keep students engaged throughout the entirety of the class and be structured in a way to minimize management issues.
So,
When we have the teacher is sick, they
Yeah.
woke up the morning of, they've been up puking all night or whatnot.
It would have to be
It's not
emailed
always
in. It
possible.
would have to be emailed in.
Sometimes that's not, like your stuff's here, you're there.
Yeah. I mean, I know many teachers, if they're sick, like they'll still make it work. They have stuff prepared for a sub. I've seen it multiple times. I've seen it with you, Aaron, like your sub plans are extensive. When we have issues in classrooms that are management type things with subs or whatever, generally, and this doesn't really, apply to everybody, but it's because there wasn't work for the kids to do for 50 minutes. It was maybe nothing, maybe it was 20 minutes, and then it was 30 minutes of the sub just like trying to tread water. Like it's a challenge. And so we, that's just a big piece of it.
Sometimes it's not the plan that's the issue, it's the students.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll write a lesson plan and give me 2 pages.
Totally.
And I'll come back to paragraphs.
Yeah.
That's common.
Yeah, the plan is a big piece of it, but you're right, we can't control, there's gonna be issues even if the teacher's there, right? Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
So part of this too is, I've told many subs if there's a problem, feel free to write referrals, right? They don't know who the kids are. And so by having them check, having an administrator come in and check, a sub could say, "Give the blue shirt is being an ass." Right? That's part of the reason here.
the news,
Just like a teacher's sick and maybe can't provide sub plans 24 hours in advance, sometimes I'm not in the building. I'll be gone for days sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, it's the exact same thing. It's just mandating these things around that can get tricky. But when we are here, we're checking in on subs. Oftentimes we are the subs.
the new teacher, just an aside, the new teacher management system, is that including photographs of the students? Do you know if that's?
Our school?
Yeah.
The SAS?
So it's got student image on there?
Yeah. And actually subs will have
Access.
their own accounts.
Oh, perfect.
So they'll know kids.
If you ever had a student management system, students photo populated, so that makes it easier.
It would be easy, yeah. That would be
easier.
How about we will whitelist checking in on subs more if you whitelist adequate lesson plans for everybody and encourage that throughout the staff.
Okay, so we don't necessarily disagree with your proposal. Instead of the words in advance of an absence, we would put in advance of a planned absence. That would give some, if you're sick, some breathing room to teachers. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah.
So
How are they going to get their lessons in if they're sick?
Email.
email. I'm classroom
Okay.
aficionado, so I can do it from home, and it's written on the board anyways, a week in advance.
Very rarely would any of my sub plans be written
on paper. Almost all of mine are Google Classroom, and in planned absences, I try to make sure that I get a printed copy of those two and then drop off at the office to get the sub book.
But we do agree with you that certain teachers doing lesson plans ahead of, in absences is a huge problem. So, yes. And then what do we do with
Okay, got our sort of break, so.
Yeah.
So what about ours?
The sub thing, I don't know what you guys are writing over there. Do you want to talk about it or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, I was going to get to it.
Well, so, like, either way, like, I'm not on board with, like, scheduling administration to go to room for
We were going
subs.
to address that.
So, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
So we were going to, for ours, so administration will physically check into classrooms being supervised by temporary subs as frequently as possible or time allows to ensure subs are able to follow teacher plans and maintain order. And then as for yours, teachers will submit substitute teacher plans to the building principal in writing for approval in the case of planned absences. The goal of this to set our substitutes up for success by having adequate lesson plans that make management of the classes easier. Lesson plans should have enough content to keep students engaged in the entirety of class, being structured in a way to minimize management issues.
When do they get turned in? The day before you said?
Yes.
Is that what it says?
That's what you say, 24.
Okay.
Do you want to have the 24 hours?
Is that what it says?
Because that's what it says in here.
Okay.
Yes.
Approval of 24 hours in advance planned absence. Yes to that?
Up to you.
Yeah.
So Eric, on that one, I will just attach on this point to the 4.52. I will have what you have administration physically checking the classroom to supervise by temporary sub as time allows
Yes.
to follow teacher plans as well as maintain order. And then I will attach this last part of the
Yes.
paragraph that we have.
And again,
Planned absence.
yes, and again, this one, the point of this one here is to keep subs and prevent problems with students and subs. That's the goal here. Because some of the stuff, I'm disgusted by some of the stuff that kids do with subs. It makes me physically angry to think about it. Okay.
Let's take
Can
like
we
a
take a break
5 minute
so we
break.
go back?
Yes, 5 minutes. Sounds good.